might be down, but they are not out. They came back and mollymopped the New York Knicks on Wednesday night. Knicks now lead 3-2 going back to New York. Celtics still in with a chance. No Jayson Tatum, no problem. Multiple guys stepped up. I was loving life when I was watching that game. I'm Adam Taylor. You can find me over at USA Today, Celtics blog of SB Nation, and most importantly, over at the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. What's popping, Billy?
What's good?
I'm living, dude. I'm living. Look, I'm going to get straight to it. This is for the episode after the interview with Derrick White's dad. So if you haven't watched that, just go back to the last post before this one. It's going to be an interview with Richard White. I thought that it was super fitting that D White came out like, yo, I'm going to be Steph Curry of the second round, right? No Steph Curry over in Golden State. Derrick White's like, hold my beer. I'm going to drain threes. I'm going to step into them. I'm going to pull up off the bounce. I'm going to score them off the catch. I don't give a shit the way, however you throw me the ball, whenever I see that fucking basket, I'm going to start firing away from deep. I was loving life. Derrick White was a monster, especially in that first half.
Dude, we talk about Celtic pride a lot. I mean, this ain't that heat culture bullshit they just put on shirts. This is Celtic pride right here. This is Rudy Tomjanovich saying, hey, don't underestimate the heart of a champion. And all these guys are champions, and they showed their pride last night. They weren't going to roll over. They weren't going to just lay down for the Knicks, and they got back to playing Celtic basketball. And there was seriously nothing more beautiful than that. And guess what, guys? It was Missoula ball. They shot 49 threes. That's 58% of their shot attempts were from the three. The spacing was great. And let's be honest, like everybody stepped up and they showed that they have some backbone and they have some pride.
You know what I like? You just mentioned heat culture. Did you see Udonis Haslem went out and praised Luke?
Really? Oh, that's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, so he was like, I don't know if I've still got the quote. Let me see if I can pull the quote up real quick. But it was a nice quote. He gave him a nickname, called him Uncle Luke, which I thought was, I liked it, right? Like,
well, that's very important down in Miami because you might not know this, but there was a rapper in the 90s, Luke Campbell. They called him Uncle Luke, and he actually went to the Supreme Court because they said his records were too explicit. So that's actually really funny. So Luke Kornet being really dirty like Uncle Luke is phenomenal.
I'm going to change his name to Uncle Luke. We're talking about the one from 2 Live Crew. That's what, yeah.
Yep, that's it.
So,
Luther Campbell, yeah. Oh, that's phenomenal.
Big praise off Haslam. And I found that super interesting because, like, last season into this season, especially, Haslam has kind of been very vocal on, like, I don't like the Celtics, especially, look, I've got beef with Paul Pierce. If I see PP, it's going to be on site. If I see KG, it's on site. So for him to have a little bit of humble pie and be like, yeah, Luke held it down. Another thing that I'm really excited about is we're going into Game 6 now, and we're going into Game 6 on the road. And if you need the road dogs to show up, if you need Celtics on the road really giving you everything they got, you need Luke Kornet barking on his way back up the floor. You know what I'm saying? We need that DMX version of Luke Kornet. We need Uncle Luke MX. That's what we need right now. That, I don't know how to bark like DMX does. But you weren't, or did. Oh, man, I just realized. R.I.P. DMX.
Oh, yeah, that just made me sad. Oh, man.
But what I'm getting at is that's the version of Luke you're going to need, especially if you want to tie the series up and force a Game 7. So between D. White and Luke, and they always say role players play better at home in front of a hometown crowd. And I think that's fair, but not for the Celtics team. The Celtics team was a monster on the road all through the regular season. It took a while for it to show up in the postseason. And this felt to me like a game where everybody kind of felt like, and I'm saying like a lot at the minute, everybody felt as if they had a little bit extra room to play because there was no Tatum on the floor. You saw Brown was incredibly aggressive, trying to get to the rim, getting paint touches. Ended the game with 12 assists, dude. I thought that was really impressive. He was making smart reads, and what I liked was most of those reads came off paint touches. Most of Kornet's reads came off paint touches. Drew Holiday had some big buckets playing out of the paint. The only guy that I really felt like stayed on the perimeter and deserved to stay on the perimeter was D. White.
Yeah, and Sam Hauser. I mean,
Yeah,
Sam Hauser being back was a key component to the Road Dogs. That's really what we missed. That was the one piece I was missing. And I know it doesn't seem like much, but just his threat of being out there, it just changes the way they get defended. And like I said, if we had this guy for games 1 and 2, in those games that were just decided by like the smallest of margins, I really can't argue that we wouldn't have won. like we would already be up in this series. I mean, Sam Hauser is so key to this road dog crew. And another thing about Jaylen Brown, like you mentioned about the assists, we talked all year about like, why do they keep giving him these playmaking reps?
Yeah.
We have Tatum, we have this guy, we have that guy. I mean, we didn't expect the worst case scenario, but like, I mean, Joe had a plan, and honestly, it's benefiting him now because Jalen's going to have to be that right now.
And I think that expecting Brown to be a Tatum level playmaker is unfair on Brown. And that's not to say he's not capable, but that's a really high bar to reach. Tatum's processing speed has got to a point where it was near God mode. Some of the passes he makes, the speed he recognizes him at, then one-hand swing passes across the floor. He makes some ridiculous reads. I think that Brown has really improved in the sense, and we spoke about this during the season, really improved in the sense that he can make a pass now that's 2 passes away. He can make a read that's 2 passes away. And that was without being a turnover threat. And that was a big improvement for him. Most of his assists in game 5 were 1 pass away, maybe 2. But they all come off smart reads. I felt like Brown played, and I used to do a show with Keith Smith a few years back, and we used to always harp on about personal pace, playing with great personal pace. And I think that one of the things that really opened up what Brown was doing in game 5 was he played with personal pace. He knew when he wanted to turn on the jets and become aggressive. He knew when he wanted to be slow and probe coming off a pick and roll. And he knew when he wanted to get into the paint and what he wanted to do when he got there. One of the biggest criticisms I've had about Brown for years is that sometimes I feel like his body is moving slower than his brain. Does that make sense? Like he's thinking, he knows where he wants to be, but he doesn't kind of think it's slow enough for his body to keep up, and that's what leads to some of his mistakes. I didn't see that this game. Everything felt so contained and so in control. And if that's the version of Brown that we're going to get moving forward in this postseason, I'm actually quietly confident that we could still see the Celtics in the NBA Finals. Oh, sorry, in the conference finals. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. The conference finals.
One series at a time, Adam. Come on.
I got you.
But I mean, it's silly to say that this is a legacy series for Brown because he's already cemented the banner. You know, the number 7 is going to be hanging from the rafters. But if he really wants to prove what he is in this NBA, that he's not just, you know, like the best version of a sidekick, this is the team to do it with because, I mean, we've heard the criticisms for the last 2 years. Hey, this is a super team. This is a super team. So without Tatum, Brown can just fit right in and bring everybody's game up to, you know, the highest level. It's going to change how people think of him, and it's going to change where he is in history because he's not just going to be like the Scottie Pippen who, you know, he got to a conference finals when MJ retired and all that stuff. I mean, it could be a lot higher ceiling, and I know that's what he's hungry for. So I do think that he's treating this like an opportunity, and it's kind of exciting to see because it's like, you know what? Maybe we were kind of underestimating what Jaylen Brown could do.
And that's kind of the nature of the beast, though, right? Like, you've got Tatum leading the charge. Brown is always going to be playing within a very, not a very defined, but within a defined system, within a defined role, because Tatum is your star. And I know the Celtics don't run a heliocentric offense, but they kind of do at the same time. A lot of that offense revolved around Tatum. It went the way Tatum went. Now that's been removed, I did feel like, and look, I'm one of the biggest Tatum fans you can meet. So I'm not saying that this was a better version of Boston, but I felt like they opened their playbook more. They played with more fluidity. There was less ISO. There was more control of the pace because they didn't have a superstar to lean on. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter when Tatum's there. If you go on a little bit of a cold spell in terms of on-ball creation, penetrating the half court, you can lean on Tatum a little bit more and he's going to unlock things for you and make it work. Well, you don't have that luxury anymore, so you do need to lean on the playbook more. You do need to control the tempo. You need to put extra effort on the boards, control your personal pace, and make sure you're playing it a way that brings out the best of you. You don't have the comfort blanket. That comfort blanket has been removed. And I did feel like Brown, among others, played with a little bit of freedom because they didn't have that comfort blanket, and everybody needed to step up and prove that this wasn't a championship team because of Tatum. Do you know what I mean? Like it is a championship.
But with Tatum,
do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
My wording's probably not great there, but I feel like they played really well. And we can say, oh, he's got issues right now. Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm past it. I'm over Kristaps. I'm over 2 years in a row him having an issue in the postseason. He missed half of this season because of the injury he had last year. I get that you don't choose when you get sick. I get that you don't choose when you have an illness. And I also understand we don't know what this illness is or the severity of it. So the criticism needs to be very limited, and because it might be something very serious that is out of anyone's control. But in terms of just a star level guy or a high level guy that's meant to elevate your team, not being available for the second postseason in a row, and it's the second postseason that he's been with the team. I get that he's playing, but he might as well not be. I'm past it. Like, he's, to me, I would be very okay if they started Kornet in game 6, and I'd be very okay if we didn't see KP again for the rest of the playoffs. If what we saw in that first 2 quarters yesterday is the version we're going to get moving forward, sit the dude. It's not worth it. It's not beneficial to him. It's not beneficial to the Celtics, and I don't want to have to watch that shit.
It's 2 different things. The first thing is, yeah, Kornet should start. Let's just literally start with that, because Kornet has earned it. He's turned into Kevin McHale somehow. So he's been absolutely phenomenal. I just don't get it, but I love it. So yeah, there's no better, thing than having Luke Kornet cook. But the Kristaps Porzingis thing, like, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, everybody calls him soft. Oh man, look, he's missing another game. He's actually out there trying. Now, it's not good. It's not helping us. But, like, unless he could just hit the play better button, there's no criticism he's not going to get. Because if he plays and sucks, we're going to crush him. And rightfully so, because he sucks. If he doesn't play, we're going to call him soft. So it's like, he is a ceiling raiser, and we do have an extra level we can get to if he could just somehow, over these next couple weeks, well, hopefully it's the next couple weeks. We're living by one game at a time right now. But if he could even slowly get back to his old self.
Halfway there. Sorry, I know you were cooking. Sorry.
No, you're good. We're living on a prayer. Ain't that the truth? I'm just kind of worried about, like, breaking this guy, because, like, what's the outcome if you do just stop playing him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm going to put this out there. You will never hear me call a player soft, ever. I don't believe in it. I think it's a bullshit narrative. It's a narrative I've pushed back against consistently over my time covering the NBA and covering the Celtics. I don't look at somebody that misses games and think soft. I also don't look at somebody that misses games and think liability. Now, there are guys out there where I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't trade for him, or I wouldn't want him on the team that I like, because he's an injury risk. Lonzo Ball being one of them, Joel Embiid being another, Paul George being another. There are guys out there like that. I didn't think that when Porzingis was acquired. I was like, yo, KP is going to be a ceiling raiser. And I still don't believe that he's the type of guy I'd be like, I don't want on the team. But I also am at the point where I'm like, he doesn't raise the ceiling right now. So I would much rather him be off the floor, out of the rotation, figuring out what's wrong with him and getting to a point where he can give you some form of production other than just being a 7-foot dude that's protecting the rim but struggling to get up and down the floor. That's not fair on him. That's not fair on the Celtics. It's definitely not fair on the Celtics, because if they do decide to move on from Porzingis in the summer, his trade value is going to be rock bottom, because he's basically laid a goose egg the entire postseason. Sit that guy and hope that, one, you continue to progress through the postseason, and 2, he can give you a repeat of game 1 in the NBA Finals last year, just to bring that value back up for when you go into negotiations in the summer, if you go into negotiations in the summer.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. I mean, I guess the bright side is his contract is expiring. I don't think there's any extension talk that's going to happen. It's just not fun to watch. It's frustrating to watch. And you can argue that if Kornet played, we would be up in this series already. Like, I mean, there is a realistic debate that you can have that he's cost us games with this just dog shit play.
You mean, just to put this out there, I want to straighten this up for anybody watching. Porzingis' contract doesn't expire this summer. It is next season, next summer 20.
Right. So it'd be as a trade chip. It'd be an expiring contract.
Sorry, I didn't want anyone taking that like it was going to expire in the summer. I double checked as well, just to make sure we're both on the same page. And look, this isn't to bash on anyone. This is a celebration. The Celtics have pulled it back. They've got 1 more game to tie the series, 2 more games to win the series. Boston swept this New York Knicks team during the regular season. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that every time the Knicks played the Celtics up until the postseason this year, they got their asses handed to them. Let's not forget that the Celtics still have one of the best, three guys on the floor in Jaylen Brown. Would you say that Jalen Brunson is now the best player in this series?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Cat's kind of turned into a kitten, and yeah, that's really bad. I mean, who else would even be in the
I'd say
conversation?
that
Bridges and OG are long
that's
gone.
gave the Knicks a slight edge because they now boast the best player in the series. But then Jaylen Brown is number 2. You can argue that Cat is number 3, but where does Derrick White go? Where does Drew Holiday go? I still feel like Celtics have 3 of the best top 5 guys in this series. Now Brunson gives them.
Where does Luke Kornet go?
Luke Kornet goes to the top. But my point being is, yes, the team with the best player usually wins. But the Knicks are only going to have the best player for the next few games because Tatum was in it up until game 4, right? So the Celtics now have 3 of the best 5 guys in this series. And one of the Knicks' top 2 isn't performing like a top 2 guy. Cat is not catting right now. As you said, Cat is kittening. And that's a big issue for New York. And if they don't get a dominant version of Cat over the next 2 games, then you could argue the Celtics have 3 of the top 4 guys in this series. And if they play like we saw on Wednesday, where Derrick White is Steph Curry, where Jaylen Brown is all of a sudden this super duper ball handling, driving menace that's just incredibly athletic and is really engaged on defense and is leading his team vocally, wants to fight Josh Hart, should oblique kick Josh Hart, boom, straight into the oblique. What now talk? And then you've got Drew Holiday being just a Swiss Army knife superstar in terms of just his role, a superstar within his role. They're going to be hard to beat, especially if Luke Kornet is like, yep, I am now Luke Elijah, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and Pritchard too. I don't know what it is, but the Knicks just have a problem with Pritchard. They can't guard him.
Everyone has.
And honestly, that is very true. I mean, there used to be criticism that Pritchard can only do it against bad teams, which I think he proved false all season, but there used to be a debate about that. But the thing with Pritchard is even when he gets switched on to Brunson, he's like so scrappy that I don't feel as bad as like when it's like Al switched on to Brunson, which sounds weird because Al is so good on switching on to guards. It's just for whatever reason, Brunson's a little too crafty and it doesn't work. But Pritchard's just such a dog and he gets like up in his chest. Brunson gets frustrated.
Brunson gets really frustrated. And I think that it's not just when Pritchard's doing that. I felt Brown done a really good job of trying to get switched onto Brunson, especially in that first half. They were running staggers to get Brown onto Brunson. I think that the way Pritchard does it, as you said, is he likes to get into his chest, but Pritchard also likes to kind of attack Brunson's hip in a way that Brunson likes to do to other defenders. I feel like one thing about Pritchard is he added that double step back that was James Harden. He also added in the way he tries to draw fouls is very Brunson-esque. So I feel like Brunson gets a taste of his own medicine when trying to guard Pritchard, and that must be frustrating because sometimes you're like, are you doing this to me because this is what I do, and you know, are you mocking me? Are you, or stay there, little guy, you're not at my level. You know what I mean? There's so many ways that you could be looking at it. It's also just really frustrating to try and guard a guy that's going to put it on the floor and then still drop a dime on you from the logo. He's just going to drop 3 on your head whenever he wants, and if he doesn't drop 3 on your head, he's going to cook you on a nash dribble, find somebody on a rotation or a slot cut. They're going to dunk on you. Pritchard has become such a valuable part of this rotation, and I don't want to spend too long on him because I felt like we praised that dude all the way through the season. So I'm just going to say this: Celtics in 7, baby.
I love that. I do think Celtics in 7, but I will play the other side just for a second. If this is just the last bow of a champion, and hey, game 6, Brunson gets hot, Cat comes back to reality, and hey, we go home with our dignity though. Like I said, we took a bow.
Yeah.
Like that performance on our home court with those guys, their last game together, if that's so be it. If their last game in front of the home fans, at least. I do feel like, hey, that's how a champion should go out, man. Like, what is the term in wrestling? You go out on your back?
Yeah, you go out on your back or you go out on your own terms. And I will say this. I'm not 100% believing my own statement when I say Celtics in 7. I like to be a realist. But I refuse to admit defeat until defeat happens. You're a champion until you're not a champion no more. And right now, they are still the champion. And until they're proven that they can no longer win that championship, I'm going to keep rocking with them. And until that happens, I'm saying Celtics in 7.
I love that. Because, yeah, the Celtic pride isn't just something we say or put on T-shirts. It's something we live. And like I said, we saw it for 48 minutes last night, man. And it was
I
a
was
beautiful
proud
thing.
to be a Celtics fan in that game. Really proud. The resilience, the way they bounce back, the connectiveness, the togetherness, the connectivity. So many words. We can use any adjective. Just throw adjectives at it. Just keep throwing positive adjectives and they're all going to work. Celtics in 7, baby. Subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you again later this week. Peace.